Daniel Cherny from Code Sports joins us now. Daniel, at the start of the series, did you ever think it was going to be quite as easy as this, and that England would be presenting you with so many freebies and gifts in the lead up to Christmas?
Probably not quite this easy. Look, having said that, I did predict 4-1, although that was pre-Josh Hazlewood's injury, and I thought once Hazlewood went down, that was going to make things quite a bit more difficult for Australia. But as it proved, it wasn't really. And probably today and the last couple of days were probably about as hard as it got for Australia. And look, not to say there were some moments today, today being Sunday here in Australia, where I thought maybe England could get it done, particularly once Nathan Lyon went down and Mitchell Stark was looking a bit sore, and we know Pat Cummins is obviously coming back on the back of very little cricket, and clearly still an injury cloud there, or at least sort of a durability cloud. But it will probably just a few too many runs for England to get 82 as it proved. So yeah, it is a bit flattening, even from an Australian perspective. Certainly from a journalist perspective, that it's over again 3-0. It's what 7 Test series in Australian soil, Ashes series in Australian soil this century, and 6 of them have been 3-0 after 3 tests. It's one of the more one-sided contests in world sport, I dare say.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the aspect of England's display, the batting, the bowling, the fielding, or the captaincy, or the coaching that dismayed you the most in regard to this being a competitive Ashes series?
Look, I mean, you're right, John. There are a lot of contenders there. It is hard to pinpoint one. I think Ben Stokes, to his credit, acknowledged subsequently that that really England has been outplayed in all 3 facets. It'd be that catching, catching, batting, and bowling. Let me get my thoughts straight there. I think actually more than anything, it was the bowling. They're just so short and wide. I think particularly when you look at how good the bowling can be, and we saw that in Perth on that first day, and you see that the ceiling of the bowling, and then for it just to be so abject for so long after that, it wasn't to say that it was terrible exclusively, and I think Jofra Archer at times showed his best, and at times Ben Stokes did, but overall it was just a pretty middling bowling performance. And Bryden Cast clearly can take some wicket balls, but just goes for so many runs otherwise. I thought Josh Tongue was okay. Gus Atkinson was a disappointment for the most part. Unfortunately, we didn't see the most of Mark Wood, but that's also to let the fielding off the hook and the batting. So it's pretty close there. All 3 were disappointing, it has to be said.
Dan, you've sort of covered the batting and bowling disciplines and stuff like that. Me and John have just been speaking about a second ago. Have the Australian media and the Australian public been surprised at the sort of non-showing of teeth that England were coming with, and the aggression and the sledging? Because I was of the opinion that, and I wrote with obviously Robert Crash Craddock, that I think England are going to come to Australia and be more Australian than any England team have come before. Get in your face, have a go at you. You're going to hear a little bit to chirp here and a little bit to chirp there. It's not Pat Cummins' way, but it has been England's way. There's been nothing.
Yeah, I think you're right, Harmy. I think one of the things about, for all the sort of mirth, and Australians have been sort of potting Bazball and the like ahead of this series, I think deep down there was a sort of sense that Australians didn't mind a bit of the get up and go about it, and the fact that they would get in your face, and obviously an aggressive type of play, which I think Australians broadly admire, not too stodgy and not sort of too conservative like we have seen from England teams in the past. And there were parts of Australia which were probably a bit more England-like leading into the series. At least that was the narrative. But it didn't eventuate that way, clearly. In fact, look, and she is clearly biased given she's married to one of the players, but Elisa Healy, Australia's women's captain, who was commentating on the series for Fox, she noted that listening into the stump mic, and obviously as a wicketkeeper, she's got a good sense of these things, and she's not shy of a word herself over the years. She sort of noted that England were very quiet, and I think they tried to get up a bit more in that 3rd test, but it just overall, and we saw it obviously with Jofra Archer and Steve Smith, and that brief moment in Sydney and Brisbane. It was a bit of a shame, I suppose, that Steve didn't play this game, because I think maybe that would have galvanised England a bit. I'm sure they'd prefer Steve Smith not playing, having said that. But look, overall, it was a quiet England team, and they have gone down with a whimper. Without a whimper, it's a shame.
I tell you what, though, for all of the talk of a close series and possibly England winning, Australia have bowled phenomenally well. They've bowled as a team. They've got bags of experience. They're skill-based bowlers. They have been phenomenal. But, once again, as we head to Melbourne, it looks like you're going to be without some key individuals. England haven't been able to capitalise on that in the first 3 Test matches. Nathan Lyon, I doubt we'll see him again this series. Pat Cummins, we might see him in Sydney, but he's ruled himself out of Melbourne. As you mentioned, Mitchell Starc, he's bowled 3 Test matches. He's given it his all, and he was looking like he was clinging on a bit towards the back end. Then you have to throw in the fact that, of course, within the batting, Steve Smith hasn't definitely recovered from the vertigo that he's been suffering. So, Usman Khawaja, of course, with 80 and 40, will probably play now. What changes? How do you think, or how do you see the makeup of the attack or the team for that Boxing Day Test match?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, John. I think maybe that's part of what makes it so probably painful for England, or such a waste for England, because this Australian team was vulnerable without Hazelwood, without Cummins for 2 tests, Nathan Lyon going down, Usman Khawaja going down, Steve Smith going down at various points, the fact that there were 2 debutants in Perth. But to sort of answer the direct question, I think, Nathan Lyon, I think he's on crutches as they celebrated the win with the team song on Adelaide Oval about an hour ago. So, he's not going to be playing. There's 3 main spin candidates, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went for any of them. It's quite an even spread there between Todd Murphy, who we did see in that 23 Ashes series, has played a bit of Test cricket for Australia, still only a young player at 24 or 25 from Victoria, the off spinner. Corey Rocchiccioli, who's another off spinner from Western Australia, probably the most like for like with Nathan Lyon, just in terms of the overspin and the bounce that he's able to extract. He's had a very good Sheffield Shield record in recent seasons, albeit Murphy was picked for Australia A ahead of him in that recent match against the England Lions. So I'd say Murphy, if they went for an off, he would probably be ahead. And the other one is Matt Kuhneman, who's also played a bit of Test cricket for Australia and done very well in Asian conditions, yet to play a Test outside of Asia. And his record in the Shield is probably not quite as strong as the other 2, but he is centrally contracted. So wouldn't be surprised if they went for any of those 3 options. Steve Smith, look, he was pictured having a beer post-match, so I dare say probably wouldn't be drinking if he was still suffering from the effect. Well, look, maybe that balances it out. Maybe you're feeling dizzy and you have a beer, maybe suddenly feel like you're straight again, so to speak. So I think, I think he'll probably be right. He was back in the nets, so I dare say he'll be okay. I think Usman Khawaja should and will keep his spot. I don't know that for sure, but I would expect him probably to get the nod over Josh Inglis. I think it'll be Inglis that's squeezed out. Jake Weatherald has been so-so. He obviously had that very good innings in Brisbane and shown what he can be, but hasn't exactly bedded down his spot. But I dare say they'll back him in. And then in terms of the quicks, Cummins has effectively ruled himself out. I think, look, there'll be being a Victorian, there would be an absolute mutiny if Scott Boland didn't play the Boxing Day Test. So I think they'll back him in despite his workload, and he is a warhorse. And there are 4 or 5 days to get up for it. And Mitchell Starc's a bit the same. He just, despite the fact that he does look uncomfortable, he's had such a good series. I dare say that they'll back him in. I think there's an option potentially that they could look to bring in bring back Michael Neser, even potentially bring in Bo Webster, although he's suddenly getting a squeeze for spots there. And Cameron Green's not playing overly well, but I think it'll be. I don't know for sure. I'd say Murphy for Lyon, Neser for Cummins, and Smith for Inglis. I'd say they were the 3 most likely changes, but there's a few different ways they could go.
Dan, I mean, Steve Smith's got his priorities right. A beer at the end of celebrating winning the Ashes. I mean, vertigo is vertigo, but you've got to celebrate winning Ashes. I mean, but when you look at, England have come preparation 3.5 years. This has been where it's going. Australia look for the next Ashes. Can you see that bowling attack? Because let's be fair, that's the big difference, the glaring difference for me between the 2 sides. Can you see that bowling attack carrying on towards going back to England and defending them?
2027, yeah. I think Pat Cummins, you certainly can see, as long as he doesn't have any recurrence of this back issue. And clearly, we've seen when he's fit, he remains absolutely world-class. Probably, well, maybe Boomer and Rabada are probably, I suppose, the other key contenders there, but you'd say as good as anyone in the world. Look, Mitchell Starc, I think he's getting better. I mean, he's not bowling as many bad balls. For so long, Mitchell Starc, he would spray it a bit, and the good was exceptional, the bad would be a bit vulnerable, or leave Australia vulnerable. But you're just seeing less and less of the bad. He's not giving that 1 or 2 bad balls an over that he might have earlier in his career, and he's managed to master the wobble seam, and he's so indefatigable. Now, I know he's almost 36, and clearly you get to that age and things can turn for the worse pretty quickly. But I wouldn't put it past him. He's retired from T20 international cricket, so he's clearly shown that he wants to prioritise Test cricket and wants to push on as deep as he can. So I think he's a fairly strong chance to get to England in 27, the way he's going. Hazelwood's the worry, I suppose, given his obviously he's missed another summer now, and he just can't seem to stay in the park. A bit like Cummins, when he's fit, no worries, he's as good as ever. But he has obviously had a long run with injuries now, and by then I think he'll be 36, 37, so pushing uphill a bit. Scott Boland will turn 37 in April, so we're talking 38 by the time he gets back to England, if he does. Again, he's had a few little injury niggles in the last couple of years, but he's been pretty durable the last 12 months or so. Obviously, he may have more unfinished business after the way things went for him in 23. I mean, it's a fair way away when you're that age, but you wouldn't put anything past him. And Nathan Lyon, it's funny, he asked me 2 days ago, I thought, look, yep, why not, go on. But once these soft tissue injuries, which obviously he had at Lords, and again here start to mount, you do have some doubts. Australia's got a massive 15-month period coming up, 18-month period coming up from August. They don't play another test post the Ashes until a couple against Bangladesh in August, but then they got 2 in Bangladesh, 2 at home to Bangladesh, 3 in South Africa, home timer against New Zealand with 4 tests, 5 test tour of India, 150th anniversary test, potentially World Test Championship final, an Ashes tour, a 50 over World Cup, and then the next home summer, all in pretty quick succession. So it's going to be, wham bam for them. So they're going to need some depth. Lyon has spoken for a long time about his keenness to get back to England and India, having never won Test series in either of those, the 2 big countries that Australia obviously tours. So he will try, and I think we've seen this week that his bowling is still there, but it's probably his fitness and the rest, which you're a little bit concerned about. But it may, to a degree, hinge on what happens with whoever replaces him. I mean, if someone can stand up in his absence and give the selectors something else to think about, particularly if they're a bit better an option in the field, which I think is something where you see Nathan Lyon does struggle a bit now, and also his batting is obviously not a major strength. May give them a bit more cause for thought. So look, and then who knows where Cameron Green's at by that point. He's sort of a little bit nowhere with his Test cricket at the moment. I was hoping for his sake that he would show a bit more with the ball, and particularly in the absence of Lyon, that he could have played a key role to get Australia victory. But he only had that one, and it was a good moment to get Harry Brook out in the first innings, but overall not a huge impact with bat or ball across the Test. Look, I suppose it's a bit like we were talking about for this series. It is an aging team. Udman Khawaja, highly doubt will be back, but beyond that, it remains to be seen. I mean, who knows? Steve Smith is up in the air, but they will reach a tipping point, and that's why I can see there is an argument for blooding some youth over the next couple of tests, because sooner or later they're going to need these players. And I suppose we've seen that the Sooners already come to a degree, because the depth has been tested